Hi, everyone, and welcome to Modern Adulthood Summit. And I'm your host. My name is Karmen. We are here to talk about how to establish a clear identity, develop intimate relationships, build your career, and still enjoy your adult life. We want to help young adults to navigate to adulthood with lots of support, with lots of right tools and guidance. So today I have an amazing guest with me, and her name is Lisa Bunnage. Lisa is a parenting coach at BratBusters Parenting Services. She has been helping families navigate through everything from potty training to teen crisis. She has been teaching leadership parenting using a mix of discipline and fun. Her focus is on teaching parenting how to give and get respect right through the teen years. Hey Lisa, welcome.
Hi, Carmen. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Lisa, can I first ask you about where did you grow up and what was your family of origin like?
Well, I grew up in Vancouver, Canada, and I lived out in the suburbs, just my mom and my dad. I was adopted when my brother was 16 years old. So I really grew up in adults. Even though I had a brother, I was surrounded by adults. So no one ever spoke down to me. I was always sort of treated with respect and like an adult. So I really didn't do anything silly as a child, I think, because I didn't have siblings. And my mother always reasoned with me, and it was a very calm, kind of a confident parenting model that I grew up with. So I think I kind of picked up a lot of that, but I've got a lot of goofy side in me too. So I mix my parenting up with a lot of goofiness and fun. And, but yeah, I had a really nice upbringing. My father died when I was very young. I was 14 and I watched him die, very awful death with cancer. And what that taught me, I mean, something good always comes out of something bad, is it gave me compassion and empathy. So I started volunteering with children when my dad got sick. I was 11 years old and I started volunteering in daycare centers and that, helping little children. And it just helped me through it. And it really just evolved from there. So we are a product of our upbringing, and I certainly feel that I am, for sure.
What kind of, if you look back, what kind of a young adult were you?
I was very responsible. I was always the one that was the designated driver. I always had a wicked sense of humor. I was a very hard worker, probably too hard on myself, if I was to say anything. I think that we're all like that in our 20s. We're trying to find ourselves, and we're so hard on ourselves. You know, as far as I was concerned, I was never fit enough. I was never pretty enough. I was never smart enough. So I was always trying to better myself. And I tried to raise my kids to not be like that, because I think there's too much pressure. And my parents didn't do that to me at all. I did that to myself. So yeah, I think I was a bit too intense, to be honest.
Lisa, can you explain how was your journey like when we look at your world of work? How did it all begin?
Well, I graduated high school like with everybody else, and I was going to go to a university. I took a few courses on psychology, and sounds terrible, but after working with kids for so many years, volunteering, I didn't agree with anything they were saying. And to this day, what was taught back then isn't taught today. You know, I felt that they were always talking down to children. So when they were talking about psychology and that, and so I knew right away that wasn't for me. And I was going to continue to volunteer, which I did for most of my life, in hospitals, and I worked in suicide prevention lines and stuff like that. And then I just became a secretary, then worked up to lower level management in offices, and was always heavily involved in volunteering with children. And then I got married and had my first child at 29, which was a huge shock to me, in that I always wanted to be a mother, but I didn't expect it to be that much fun. No one talks about that. Everyone talks about how much work it is, how tired you're going to be. No kidding, my face hurt. I had a headache for the first year of my son's life. I was smiling so much. I just was ecstatic. I thought it was the most fun experience I'd ever had. And to this day, it's still, maybe my life's really boring outside of parenting. Maybe that's it. But I thought parenting was so much fun. Right from day one, I loved it. That was my calling. So once I was a mother, it was like everything just fell in line. And then I continued to volunteer, always working with children with problems, either juvenile delinquents, or I worked in a lot of hospitals with mentally and physically challenged children. So I always continued to feed that side of me. But yeah, mothering was my calling in life, for sure.
Can you tell me what led you to start with your own company?
It was interesting, actually. I was working with juvenile delinquents in schools, and they had to train me to get me in there. I didn't use anything they told me to do, nothing. And I just had my own style of working with these kids. And it was all about connecting, right? Making them feel good about themselves. I never talked about their past, because to me, your past doesn't necessarily mean that's who you are today. So I always told them when I was working with them that I'm never even going to open up your file, because I want to get to know you, who you are, and who you present to me. So my gift, I felt, was bringing out the best in them. So I did that. I forgot your original question now. You see, I'm getting off on a tangent here. The original question was what led me to working with children?
Open your coaching.
My coaching. They told me I have to teach parents how to parent. And I said, really? I don't really see that. And because I didn't want to work with adults, right? And they said, no, you have to teach what you do. So then I went out stupidly and I paid $5,000, got some career counseling, and they told me I have to be a parenting coach. Exactly what they told me to do, and I wasted $5,000 learning, and they said you zeroed right in, and there wasn't even such a job at the time. They just said you have to teach parents how to parent, because I had a skill for it. I loved it, and there's a need for it, and they said it was just a gift. And so isn't that funny, though, that those kids had told me all along to do that? Yeah. So it was really guided by them, and I feel that children are a mirror into our souls. If we just shut up long enough to listen to what they tell us, we're going to learn more about ourselves than anywhere else is through children. And troubled teens are particularly sensitive because they're old enough to articulate, and they're still very vulnerable, and they're still very emotional. So teens I've learned more from than anyone else, and they'll tell you everything. They don't hold back. So children are wonderful teachers.
Exactly. Lisa, on your website, when I looked at your description about your work and you wrote, I remember the day that I decided to change the way I parent. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
That's actually a funny story, and I'd forgotten about that for years and years, and I was speaking somewhere, and it came back to me, and so I ended up telling that story, and they all thought, because that made me look more human, because everyone said it always looks like parenting was so easy for me, like it just came naturally. And it did in a way, but I really turned a point this day. I think my son was 2, and he was out in the sandbox, and he just found some rocks in the sandbox. I was inside, and he started throwing them over the fence. I was horrified, into the neighbor's yard. And so I went storming out there, as you do. My precious little angel's doing something horrible. So I said, what are you doing? And he said, and he stopped. He knew he was doing something bad. And so I said, how could you do that? I was so disgusted because he was such a good little boy usually. So I stormed down to the neighbor's yard with him, and I talked to the neighbors, and I said, I'm really sorry he was doing this. And so he said sorry, and and he helped me pick up all the rocks, and we went back up and put them in the sandbox. Pardon me. And then I said, okay, sweetie, now you don't do that. Stupid me. I talked to him like he's, 18. You don't do that. You're not going to do that again. And he's going, no, Mommy, no, I know, So I'm thinking, oh, phew, boy, do I know what I'm doing. I've handled that situation great. So I go back in the house, and I look outside, and that stupid little kid is throwing rocks over the fence again. I'm like, has he lost his mind? I thought, well, I was so mad when I went out there. And as I was walking toward him, he looked terrified, by the way, because he was got caught. But he couldn't see me in the window. I could see him because it's sunny outside, so he couldn't see me. And it dawned on me. I thought, oh, he's not thinking like a 31-year-old woman. He's thinking like a 2-year-old little boy. He's thinking, I can't see Mommy, so she can't see me. and throwing rocks over the fence is fun. That's it. That's all he was thinking. He wasn't thinking, I'm going to get away with something. He wasn't thinking, I'm going to be rotten. He was just thinking that no one saw him doing it and it's fun and I'm going to do it again. And it really turned a corner in that moment. And I thought, I have to start thinking at his level, and I have to go down to his level and deal with him there, rather than trying to pull him up to my level and reasoning with him. So what I did was I said, okay, sweetie, I know it's fun. We're going to do the same drill again. Let's go down, pick up the rocks, apologize to the neighbor. Then what I did is I got rid of the rocks. So I took them out of the sandbox. And then I said, I played with him for a little while. I distracted him. That's his world. I got little trucks or whatever, distracted him. Then I said, Mommy's going to go in the house and she's going to be watching you. So I went in the house and I kept calling out to him. I'd see him look at the rocks, but then I'd call out. So what I was doing was I was just sort of changing his pattern. I wasn't trying to reason with him. I was just letting him know that I'm on top of it. I'm a leader here and I'm in charge. And that changed how I parented, because all of a sudden I understood what he was thinking. Okay, so after that day, what I learned was that we have to understand what children are thinking in order to guide them. We cannot expect them to understand what we're thinking, which is continually what people do wrong. They're always trying to say, do you know how upset Mommy was? They don't care. They're not really listening. They're not on that level yet. They're little children. This is when they're tiny, right? They really don't care what you're thinking. They only care what they're doing. They care that you love them, or they care about how you interact with them. But we don't need them to understand our emotional situation, is what I'm getting at. So too often parents expect way too much from children in that way.
Lisa, on your at your what you offer to your parents and to the parents who come to you for help, you also described a method. As soon as.
Actually, I love that method because it uses reward instead of punishment to inspire good behavior, rather than punishing bad all the time, which is what discipline gets a bad rap. To me, discipline is teaching children how to be self-disciplined so that when they're adults, they'll be self-disciplined, right? So what I did with my kids is they never had the right to just turn on the TV, ever. Like they could have done that, but they only did it when they knew they'd done all their chores. So it was like, oh, well, as soon as you finish dinner, then we'll play a game. Or as soon as you're ready for school, then you can turn on the TV for 5 minutes. So what that did to them is it taught them that it was all up to them. I never said, if you don't get ready for school, you can't watch TV. Because that's such a negative. It's also negative, and that's not fun to be around. It's not enjoyable. But when you say to children, well, as soon as you get your homework done, then you can play video games or whatever. And I always used to follow that up with saying, it's all up to you, sweetie. And they understood from a really young age that they had the responsibility and the accountability for how their life went. And honestly, my kids were self-disciplining. I never had to say anything to them. They just understood that good comes after getting stuff done. They had to earn the fun stuff. And I never treated video games and TV as a privilege. No, as a right. I treated it as a privilege, something you have to earn. Now, that teaches children pride and self-respect. And this is what a lot of young adults are missing, is pride. That's why a lot of them aren't good workers. They get a job and they're used to their parents doing everything for them, so they don't even know how to function in a real job. I see this all the time because they didn't learn about being responsible at a young age. And my kids don't even take sick days. They take it to the nth degree. I never told them that. But they're hard workers because from a very young age, they knew they had to put their laundry in the hamper. You know, I didn't have them shoveling out a barn or anything. I mean, it's not like it was hard labor. It's just you can put your dirty underpants in a hamper. I mean, you know, I wasn't asking a lot. So that's that as soon as. It's as soon as you get what you need to get done, then life's great. You can do whatever you want, you know? Kind of like eat your vegetables, you can get dessert. It's that reward system. And then also, when they don't get what they want or the fun stuff, they don't blame you for it. They never do. My kids, literally, if they did something wrong, let's say they were late for school or something, and they knew, and then they'd say, I know, no TV tonight. I never said anything. And then they'd say, sorry, Mom. I couldn't believe it. Like, not only were they self-disciplining, they felt bad for me because I might have to say something to them. Like, they just understood from a very young age they were accountable for how their life goes. And they had to earn the good stuff. It wasn't just handed to them.
Mm-hmm. Lisa, what is the most common problem at this new age parenting that you are trying to help, but also trying to tell parents to how to actually deal with to prevent it, that even this problem comes along?
Okay, the problem is yelling. Yelling, I see this all the time. Almost every single one of my clients yells at their children. And that's a sign that you're out of control. You don't know what you're doing. What I teach is leadership parenting. You don't want to be a tough disciplinarian. You want to be a really calm leader for your children to respect and want to please. I teach parents how to get respect. It's that simple. Well, it's not simple. It's a simple thing to say, but the process is the kids get it right away. If I could say to parents, if you do every single thing I tell you, don't question it, just do it, I guarantee you'll start to see results in 2 or 3 days. Mm-hmm. Teenagers might be 2 or 3 weeks. A 16-year-old might be 2 or 3 weeks. I guarantee results. What they don't do is they'll do everything I say, but then they'll throw in their own stuff. So they'll go, I'll say, okay, now no yelling at all. And when they're going off the cliff, you know, when they're getting real snotty and difficult, you don't go with them. So they'll say to me, I only did it once. Well, you can't do it once. That's like a dieter saying, I only had 1 chocolate cake yesterday. You know, like you can't make one mistake when you're doing this, when you're in training. Mm-hmm. You have to commit to it. And I'm very clear. I give very few instructions initially, but they really struggle with it because they're so patterned on reacting to how children act. Rather than just acting as they know they should, they're so busy in the reaction mode. And that's what I struggle with. It's a real battle. That's why I say, I'm only going to get you to do 1 or 2 things, or maybe 3. Can you do 3? And they'll say, oh, no, I don't know. So we'll usually pick 1 or 2 things that they have to change 100% of the time. Now, if they mess it up, let's say they yell. So on day 2, they yell. I say, you don't go back to square 1. You go further back. Because now they know that when you pretend to be calm, all they have to do is push harder to get you to blow up. Mm-hmm. And the kids they'll test this. Because they don't understand, why is mom all of a sudden not yelling? Why can't we upset mom? Let's work even harder. Mm-hmm. But you have to really commit to it and do it. So it's not about, kids are easy, it's the parents. We're patterned. We have habits that we've developed over many years. And it's hard for us to break that and also there's an ego involved. Parenting is very personal. Mm-hmm. And they're very upset when they think they're doing a bad job. And it's my job to make them feel proud of doing a better job and forget about what you did yesterday. That's old news. Forget it. Drop it. But you have to do exactly what I say every single day. So we start very, very slow, and then they start to see results, and it all gets easier. Because don't we all love a leader or a mentor, someone to look up to, even as adults? Yeah. Well, imagine your children. They'll come to you. They won't go to their peers. They're not even going to go to their teachers. They're going to turn to you because you're going to be their leader, someone that they look up to. Now, my kids told me everything. Now they're all grown up now. But my son told me way more than I wanted to know when he was a teenager. I mean, he told me everything, and I sort of was thinking, geez, I created a monster, but he didn't know any different. He'd always told me everything, and he knew I didn't judge. I never told him what to do. I'd just say, well, let's talk it through, and what do you think? Okay, so once parents learn how to be a very calm leader, their children right through the teen years will go to them for advice and for guidance. And they're sort of really self-disciplining because they don't want to disappoint you. And it, and I talk a lot about fun too. When I'm talking about parenting to you or someone else, I tend to talk more about the what you do, but really the aspect is you want to enjoy your children. You want to have fun with them too. So if you get all this stuff out of the way, then you can just relax and play games and have fun and go places, because you're going to have a great relationship with your kids. So you're going to enjoy parenting more too. So it's not just to turn out great young people. It's also for the parents to enjoy parenting and have more fun doing it. So it's a win-win for everybody. The kids are better, the parents are happier, and it's a happier family life. So that's always my goal, is happiness.
Lisa, I would like to also touch on a subject of bullying. I think that it's also quite an important subject nowadays. What are your experience with it, with this kind of problem, and how do you deal with it when they come?
Well, I mean, I can come at it from all different sides. I've actually done a lot of workshops on bullying, and I've even done workshops on workplace bullying because it's the same thing. But most of the people who come to me with bullying, they're children of the victims. But sometimes my clients, their children are the bullies too. Are we talking about school bullying here? Is that what you'd like me to focus on? Because it's very different.
Yeah.
Okay. School bullying, what I do is I've done for a lot of my clients that has been the most effective thing is I've taught them how to intervene and how to deal with it. Sometimes, I don't do it anymore, but I used to go into the school. If it was really serious, dangerous bullying, I would go to the school with the parents and meet with the principal and the teacher. And if it was really bad, dangerous stuff. So what I always tell parents is that you be darn sure that your child is the victim and not the bully. Sometimes it's the other way around and they're quite shocked. They go into school and find out that their sweet little Sally is actually instigating this stuff. And the other kid's just getting caught doing something, but it's actually the other one. So make sure. And it's about the parents removing emotions from it and dealing with it on a very, very business-like manner. They have to get involved. They have to go to the school. They don't bring the children with them. And they treat it like a business meeting. Now, the reason we do that is it's so easy for emotions to pull into it. So if we knock it right down and say, okay, so he did this, and then he did that, or she did this, and then what can we do? And I say, you always say to the school, what can we do as a team to solve this problem? I understand my child may be part of it, and even if they're not, you say that. My child might be part of it too, but I want to solve this problem. What can we do? The schools have a lot of stuff, not all of them, but most of them are pretty good at this stuff. They know how to intervene. They'll even change classes. They'll watch them more in the school ground. They might talk to the parents of the bully. You want them in there too, by the way. So it's treating it like a business when you're trying to fix it. Now, when you're dealing with, there's so many different ways I could go with this. If it's online bullying, which is really common now, I just had, recently I had a client who, it was an online bullying situation. What I said to the client was, well then take the phone away and there's no more internet. Well, they were just, I can't do that. I think it was the child, a girl, 13 years old. I can't do that. I said, why not? Well, she would just kill me if I took her phone away. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, online bullying ends when you remove the devices. It just ends. But here again, parents are so afraid to intervene that they don't do it. You have to get involved, and you have to do it in a very calm, business-like way. And you say, if you're being bullied online, we're not going to be going online anymore. Shut yourself down. Now, here's the thing with kids. They will get bored very quickly and move on to somebody else. You only have to shut down the internet for a week or two, and kids will have moved on. They'll be bullying someone else, right? They get bored. They're not going to wait. So, and you don't interact. Another thing I just want to say about online safety, I've had to have the police intervene several times now for young girls who will meet boys online. They'll arrange a meeting place. And I always figure that whoever they're talking to online is probably some big fat old guy sitting in his underpants talking to them online, but he puts a picture up of a gorgeous young guy, right? But a lot of girls get lured in to the internet. So you watch it. You make sure you have all their passwords. And if you start to get worried, you tell them, I'm going to go in, I've got to check. Because if you can have a phone, you can have Facebook, you can have all that, but I have to have the passwords. And I will never interrupt your privacy unless I'm worried about your safety. So online safety is online bullying is huge. It's the biggest bullying I deal with these days. And which surprises me, because why don't parents just take the devices away? I don't know. That's the first thing I would do, is shut down all the internet for them. So, but anyway, bullying is, I could go on about that for hours. It's a huge, huge issue, and has to do with how children are brought up. Now, my children, of course, never would have bullied. They were kind, but they never would have been bullied because they had a lot of self-respect and confidence because they were raised with all this pride and responsibility and accountability. Those are not victims of bullies ever. Mm-hmm. So I made my kids bully-proof. Mm-hmm. And so was I. I couldn't be bullied. Whenever they'd try, I'd just go, whatever. Like I had too much confidence to be bullied because my parents gave me a lot of confidence. Mm-hmm. So confidence is the key. Bullying comes from insecurity and lack of confidence. Mm-hmm. So they don't attack people who are really confident. They go for weaker victims than them. But more often than not, when I've worked with kids, they've been the bullies. When I work with parents, it's usually their children are the victims. Mm-hmm. But more often than not, I've been working with bullies when I did a lot of work with kids. And they're so messed up. They're so insecure. They're just trying to fix themselves by breaking other people, you know? So I have sympathy for them, which sounds kind of silly, but I do. No sympathy for adult bullies, by the way, just children. Mm-hmm.
Lisa, what are your plans for the near future? Can you explain? Because I find it very interesting.
Well, my business has been built around fixing problems, and I have specialized in teen crisis work, so a lot of suicide prevention and stuff like that. But what I've decided is I'm getting older now, I'm pushing 60, and I'm kind of getting a bit, the kids aren't maybe going to relate to me for that much longer, because teens will tell me everything. Because I've heard it all. They know that I've heard all this. But what I want to do now is I want to get to the parents of new little ones, and I want to prevent all this stuff. Because I figure I can reach a much wider range of parents this way too. Because it's more public too. People don't mind talking about prevention and what they're going to do right out in the open and on TV and wherever else I am, rather than talking about the mess they got themselves into when their kids are teenagers. So it's more public, it's more open, it's more positive, and we can avoid all those problems down the road. So I think I'll still always do the crisis work because I love it. But I think I can probably do more good by working on prevention with younger parents of younger children. I don't know if that's the best way, but I think that's my feeling is it's probably the best way to go.
Yeah, Lisa, I would like to ask you, what is your advice to parents or even parents to be? What would you advise them?
The best advice I can say is focus on being a very calm leader. If you don't know what to do in the moment, you can say to your children, I'll get back to you. Mm-hmm. So as I said previously, how parents tend to get pulled into reacting. Rather than reacting, start acting a certain way. So stay as calm as you can, never yell. Yelling is a sign of weakness and it scares children. Mm-hmm. Every child I've worked with has said that they would rather be spanked than yelled at. Mm-hmm. Spanking hurts the body, yelling hurts the emotions. It breaks down their self-esteem. Mm-hmm. Every time you yell at a child, you're chipping away at their self-esteem. Mm-hmm. And that's the most common thing I see parents doing wrong almost all the time is yelling. Mm-hmm. They just lose it and they yell, and that's because they don't know what else to do. So, I've got a newsletter. I put a lot of advice in there. I'm going to be putting together, when I get some time, my top 10 articles I've written, and it'll all be free, of course, and I'll probably put it in a tab on my website, which is BratBusters.com, and my top 10 articles of advice, just general parenting, how to get this set up, how to set yourself up as a leader, and then how to relax and enjoy children on their terms, how to have fun. When you're having fun with children, don't just take them to the park and watch them swing. You get on that swing with them. You roll down that hill with them. Get involved. Be part of their fun world too. So rather than just taking them somewhere and watching them have fun, be part of it. They'll identify with you more if you enter their world. Now, if you've got teenagers, especially teenage boys, and they're on the internet all the time or playing video games, sit down beside them and just watch. You're entering their world. That's how you stay in your teenager's world too. You just enter it, just be there. I used to call myself furniture. I'd just sit down and be there and watch my son play video games. Because then he'd start talking to me. Yeah. He'd start talking, oh, did you see that move, Mom? And I'd wake up, oh, yeah, well, But I was always trying to get into their world. Mm-hmm. So if they associate you with fun and happiness and calmness, they're going to be so much easier and so much more enjoyable than if you don't. So calm leadership is everything.
Perfect. Lisa, I have like almost 2 questions for the end. First,
Okay.
maybe if you would like to add something for the end, and also you have a nice giveaway for our audience. Can you also talk about a little bit about it?
Okay, my giveaway, I believe you're going to have a link to it. And it's I call it my 3-step parenting plan, because it has, they just set up a big chart somewhere in the kitchen and they put down rules. I can't remember now. Rules. I can't remember. I never look at it. I think it's rules, consequences, and motto. That's it. So you put down, now here's what, it's like a behavior chart, but to me, it's just a reminder of what you should do right. You put it up in the kitchen. The difference with that than every other behavior chart is mom and dad are on there too. Mm-hmm. So a rule for mom, like everyone has it, like they put everyone's name, and you put the rule for mom is no yelling. The rule for dad is, I don't know, no, you can't sit on your phone through dinner or whatever. And then Sally and Johnny, and you all have rules. You all have consequences. Now, what that does is when they see mom and dad up there too, they instantly become more on board with this. So anyway, I've got it all set out how you do this. And I like to put fun stuff in there, and I like to make the punishment fit the crime. So if little Johnny hits little Sally, he has to make Sally's bed for a couple of days or stuff like that. So that would be his consequence, no hitting his sister or something. But I like to make that fun. So it's all in there. It's all in videos and written down. And that's my giveaway for today. And if I was to add one thing, I would say don't focus on trying to be friends with your kids. That will come naturally. Focus on being a leader. Rise above, do the right thing when they're young, and then you can be best friends as they're growing up. But you've got to put in the hard work to set yourself up as the leader first. So focus more on leadership rather than trying to be popular and giving them everything they ask for. They're not going to like you for it anyway, by the way. That's going to bite you in the butt big time. If you're just the one who's handing out everything, it's not going to work. It's going to backfire, guaranteed. So, and I think that's it. I think, I could go on for hours. You know me, I'm very chatty, but I think that's about, probably I'll end here because I was going to say something else too, and I thought, no, I'll end here.
Lisa, I had so much fun with you, and also I think that even listening to you parenting, sounds easier. So I hope that it is easy. Have somebody to have it easier.
Yes.
So I want to thank you for that you took your time for me and for our audience, and it was my pleasure having you here.
Well, thank you so much, Karmen. You were a wonderful interviewer.
Thank you.
And you even said my name right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And to Modern Adulthood community, thank you for being here with us. Tune in for more amazing interviews to come, and see you soon. Bye.